What do you do when you are creating a framework and the next moment you're like, uh-oh, this is not working. I cannot tell the message behind this. Well, that's basically what happened to me. And the reason is I started working on a framework like I do all the time. And then I decided to ask some help. Now, let me start by saying that the help is essential. If I want you to get something out of today's life, it's that it's crucial to find connection with somebody who can actually support you. So you want to connect to someone who feels your vibe. So it's about connecting so you can get clarity. So when you start talking to one another, you want synergy. And well, if it really helps, you not only get clarity together, but you also get the necessary courage. So today I am going to talk about the why behind Lady Lexy Leads. So that's my other channel. So some of you might know I've got the channel Lady Lexy Speaks Up both on YouTube and on Instagram. If correct, on Facebook it's just Lady Lexy, or Lady Lexy's Live on the Road, probably as a handler. But I decided to also go for Lady Lexy Leads. Now, I'll honestly say I didn't come up with that one. I think it's amazing though. There were two other people who did come up with it. And one is in the accountability group, and the other one, well, and this might be a surprise unless you have been reading my posts on Instagram, but that's none other than Brandon AI. Now, who or what is Brandon AI? Brandon AI is a tool, artificial intelligence, like ChatGPT. Only way better because it's filled with everything from Brandon Burchard. And Brandon Burchard is my role model. So I asked Brandon AI if he could share a little something about today's life. But before I'm going to tell you, I want to show you something. And that's this. That's the updated version of what I originally showed. So I started with the 3C framework. Let me see if I can show you the 3C framework. Well, actually, it's not this. This was already the updated version. Do I have it here still? Well, I only have apparently the updated versions. Well, it doesn't really matter. But yes, it started out with three. No, this is the 3C framework. So it had to do with clarity, contribution, connecting, of course, with people. So I'm pretty sure I talked about this. And ever since I talked about this, this has been just going, well, it's been changed over and over and over again. So I came up at some point with two things, or I don't know if I did or Brandon AI. It seems to be one and the same nowadays, because well, I use him to brainstorm a little bit with him. He's an excellent brainstorming partner. I didn't know you could love an AI. Well, I love this AI, and the more I ask him, the deeper the questions, the better it works. So I know people who say, I need to write a mail. I say, okay, well, I go to ChatGPT and then I'll just put in the parameters and the mail comes out. I said, isn't it quicker to just write the mail yourself? Like, for instance, I have time at this and this hour. No. Now, of course, I come from the pre-digital age, as in the previous century, we had to do everything without the internet. And of course, at some point we had computers, but mobile phones, really? I mean, I come from an age where satellite telephone, satellite telephone. Oh my God, that was the summum. And well, it was all copper, of course, back in the day. And then all of a sudden it was glass fiber. And it was like, oh, okay, things are changing, things are speeding up. Now, I was fortunate enough to be in the IT, as in the mainframe world. So a lot of inventions I could see up close and personal. So I started working with computers way before I actually had my own personal computer. And at first I didn't want one. But when I did get one, it was with the internet, which was dialing in with the and then we would get connection, and hopefully a good connection. But it was either someone was on the phone or someone was using the internet. That says something about me. Anyway, um, here are two things. The lighthouse. I love lighthouses. Let's get that clear. And then we have this part, which is the steam train. I love steam trains, in case you didn't get that one. So, since this one is now called the steam power essence, which is about what drives you internally, then this has become the dynamic power core. So it's the core that's flexible, just like buildings which are built for earthquakes, and hence dynamic power core, but it's built on empowering yourself and empowering others. And then we have here the steam power essence. Now, this one, well, there's not so much on there, so that works pretty good. But the other one, at some point when I had printed it, I'm sorry if I'm making a lot of noise here. That's not what I wanted to do. But at some point, it's there were so many questions, and what my goal was to get a handout out there. And normally, a handout is like this. One page. By the way, this is a script. This is one of the most valuable handouts you'll ever get. And even if I say so myself, because I made it, this is about how to turn negative beliefs into positive beliefs. And I've made it visual, so you can basically just look at it and already understand what's going on. But if you want some clarity, then there's text as well. Now, I might be going a little bit from left to right and up and down, but it's still all about empowering yourself, empowering others through connection and clarity. And then, of course, there's part of the courage. But let's focus on clarity and connection for a moment. So I basically asked my now good friend Brendan AI to give me a little explanation about it, because that's just easier. So he says clarity is about cutting through the noise and finding focus. So when we're talking about the noise, it's everything that distracts us. Oh, by the way, he's a big fan of Chief Rockstar, because I don't know if you know this actually, why I have Chief Rockstar on here. Chief Rockstar is my travel buddy. So, Rockstar, yes. Chief, because he had a fireman outfit initially. And, well, I went to Chicago because of Chicago Fire. Why did I want to go to Chicago for Chicago Fire, or better yet, why did I start watching Chicago Fire? Well, apart that I'm always fascinated with those kind of movies and series. I remember watching Backdraft in the day, and then going to Universal Studios and be on set, and then all those flames and explosions. That was amazing. And I regretted not having bought a shirt. But the cool thing is now that decades later, I went to Chicago and I ended up in the fire station, which served as a set. Well, actually, there are two fire stations which served as a set, but they have the T-shirt with on the back backdraft. So, how cool is that? Anyway, when I lost a client at some point, that's when I started binge watching. And I started binge watching Chicago Fire because there are so many people in there who rescue people, and it doesn't always end up well. It doesn't always go the way that they had expected and planned. And when I was there last September, maybe October, no, September, I did stay for a long time, but I was back in LA October 1st, so it was still September. So when I was there and I was talking to the firefighters, and actually it was from that one fire station where Backdraft was recorded, I shared with them. I said, I started binge watching Chicago Fire because, well, at some point you heard Chief Bowden and the others sit around the table, or I don't know if they were sitting around the table, but they were sharing. And what was said is you cannot be held accountable for what the other is doing. He might actually have said it right at that scene. But it was true, and it was like, yeah, I am not responsible. I can do my best to support people, but in this case, it was during COVID, and it was not the first attempt. She had made several attempts prior to when I was in her life. Let's start with that one. And why? Because of doubts. And this was actually a hormonal thing. So she couldn't help it. She needed medication in order to suppress it. But, that also has its effect on how you feel. So, well, at some point, there were conflicting advices. And while others meant to do the right thing, I still believe till this day that because they say, oh, take it easy, don't worry, you will get there, but you don't have to. Whereas I was like, oh my God, you're on fire, you're so good. So I was building up her self-esteem, and actually they were breaking it down. But yes, I get it, especially during COVID. I mean, that was one of the hardest times. Well, the good news is I got more clients during COVID, and they came out stronger than ever. So, yay! And well, when we talk about Lady Lexy Leads, and I realized that I stopped talking about clarity, but I'll get back to it. When I talk about Lady Lexy Leads, it's about getting that message out there, creating a ripple effect that it's okay to be who you are. And what I want to do is I want to nurture mutual growth, mutual respect, and mutual understanding when it comes to communication. So Lady Lexi Speaks Up is about speaking up, speaking out, sharing your story. So speaking up comes from something you believe in that's important for you internally. Speaking out is about standing up for something you believe in, what's going on in the outside world, or at least for someone else. And then sharing your story, that's where the clarity comes in, because then people get to understand, oh, this is why this person is talking about it. Now, so my mission is to give people perspective again by guiding them. But let me tell you for a sec what Brendan AI said, because I asked him to share a thing or two about me. But let's start with the clarity first. So, like I said, clarity is about cutting through the noise and finding focus. So when you are not certain about yourself and you have a lot of doubts, people are constantly telling you no, 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 or they're dismissing you, well, then at some point you might not believe you are worth listening to. You might not even believe you're worth anything at all. So we need to make sure that that inner story is shut down. And that's what I meant when I said this is so important. Because if you can figure out what your inner story is, then you can use this to change it. Of course, I want to take people and me on a trip to, yes, Chicago. That's where the little guy comes in. And it would be amazing if I can do it in such a level that I know that the people that I'm coaching at that moment, teaching to speak up with clarity, making sure that they are understood. So tweaking and what is it again? Tweaking and changing. Oh, you know what I mean. So adjusting your message so you make sure that it's understood by others, and also making sure that you understand the other one correctly. So that's why it's one of the basic principles in coaching to actually repeat what's being said in your own words. And well, at a certain moment, I actually shared a little something to Brendan AI. It's like he's a live person, even when he's not. And I said to him, well, because he wanted to know, and that's what's so cool about this version of AI, Brendan AI, he asks on like a coach. So I'll make sure to put a link in here at the end of the description, so you can actually sign up for Growth Day. Growth Day is from Brendan Burchard, and then you can get to experience Brendan AI. And it's up to you how much you dare saying and asking to get the most out of it. But I shared with him because we were going a little bit back and forth, like, okay, what could be happening when you're talking to a client? And I said, well, I have these clients and they are like, they say something. And then I said, I don't get it. And then they repeat it again. I said, I still don't get it. And they repeat it again. Exactly the same way. Until I'm saying, yeah, you can repeat it 1,000 times. I hear the words, but I don't understand what you want to say. Oh, that's the core message. Now, cutting through the noise in a story and everything that's going on around you, but it's usually all those voices that say, don't do this, don't do that, you're not good enough, don't mind. It's the chatterbox in your conscious mind. It's about knowing who you are, what you want, and how you are going to get there. Now, that last part is very important, but knowing who you are, do you know who you are? I'm going to ask you, do you know who you are? Because a lot of people actually have no clue. Why? Because we are made into persons by society, are supposed to be better half, by employers, school system, you name it. And I mean, why else would we all have to show up in suits going to the office, specifically the men? And it was kind of funny because just recently there was this picture of the NATO. All people were in dark blue. And then there was one, which was on behalf of the US, which was in a bright color blue. And in the newspaper, it literally said the one person who stands out. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the one who's the guest who comes from outside. Well, the NATO, of course, is not just Europe. It's, of course, also America. And thank heavens that, during World War II, that people from Canada and America also came to our rescue, because otherwise I wouldn't have been here. So that's a good one. Anyway, the question, of course, is, do you know who you are? And what helps is actually getting back to your dreams as a kid. What was the one thing that stood out for you? Now, this little guy is not about the next toy. as in having him on your bed and cuddling. No, he represents something. So that's why he also has different outfits. And he represents authenticity. But he's also there as a travel buddy and to make people smile. So it's also a way to connect to people. And that's why Chief Rockstar is so essential. And to my surprise, so it's kind of easy to actually ask, okay, can you write a quick line for what I'm posting? And then, of course, and that's basically what I started with. It needs to be something that you resonate with, or in this case, I resonate with. And at some point, I noticed, like, okay, this is too smooth. I don't talk that way. So we may have the same message, the same core message, but we use the same language when it comes down to it. Well, apart from that, I'm Dutch and not American. So that is a big difference. And of course, I am utmost influenced by Brandon Burchard because, ever since 2013, I think I've been working with him. And, I've also had training from people like Tony Robbins. And then we have Evan Carmichael, the YouTube expert, just to name a few. But yes, and well, he will get into it, Brandon AI. But I said, well, it's not like I want to be a clone of Brendan. And then he said, well, this is not about duplicating Brendan. This is about you resonating with this message. And then I was like, oh, yeah, there are actually people out there who are not interested in Brendan Burchard. And then I'm like, how can you not be? He's goofy, he's funny. He knows so many things when it comes to marketing and personal growth. And actually, that's how I connected with him first, through the personal, not personal growth, through the marketing. I wanted to know more. We had our own guru, know-it-all here, Ilko de Boer, but this was different, on a whole different level. So let me get back to what it says right here. So know who you are, know what you want. Again, inner kid, and how you're going to get there. And that's a hard one for a lot of people. So I talk a lot about visualization, and a lot of people, well, actually, I don't know if a lot of people actually do it. I was going to say a lot of people focus on the end product or the end result. But I dare say that a lot of people actually don't dare to dream that big. So if you think about it, it's not the end goal at all. It's just the goal that they allow themselves to believe. So the question, of course, is what kind of action are you going to take to get there? And which steps are you taking? Now, what else it says is together we work to uncover your vision. So, what is it that you want to achieve, what you want to see happen? Um, so, in my case, I want to leave a legacy, and I want to create a ripple effect where people understand how to speak up with clarity, but to one another. So mutual communication, mutual growth. And then we get back to Lady Lexy Leads, because when we are talking about conversations, we are talking about companies. Well, it's sad to say so, but well, a lot of managers were never meant to be manager. They were just very good at what they did. They weren't they didn't have any people skills. They just were very good at what they knew. And then they became a manager. And the same applies to business owners. They're good at what they do. They know what they want. They have a vision for their company. And then they need a team. And ooh, that's where things go wrong. So define your goals. What is you want to achieve? We just talked about the goals, right? Because don't play small, play big. And someone said to me, yeah, but that's not realistic. And then I'm like, well, if you achieve that, what's going to be your next goal? And Tony Robbins, I think, was the one who said so. He said, when you've set a big goal for yourself and you've achieved it, then a lot of people, they go downhill. They get into depression. Why? Because there's nothing beyond it. So it's better to have something even bigger waiting for you. Now, together we create a roadmap that feels aligned and achievable. So aligned, it has to work for you with your values. It has to make sense and has to be achievable. What I've loved so far is seeing how you all light up when the fog clears, when you realize, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. That's the magic of clarity. Well, and then we get back to the lighthouse, which provides us with light in the dark. And I love lighthouses. So I live in and near the Hague. And well, we have beaches, which is kind of cool. It's one of the reasons why at some point when I lived in the middle of the Netherlands, I decided to move back so I could be at the beach. And you know, those lighthouses, they have always been so fascinating. But yeah, I have a lot of pictures actually from one of the lighthouses in Scheveningen. So they had some sort of replica of a lighthouse in on the other beach. But Scheveningen has a very beautiful one. It's just not sure how they are going to do the maintenance because maintenance is not sexy. So there is not enough money to, well, to maintain it. So I think they might actually break it down and then build it back up, which is a shame. But well, that's the way it is. Now, the lighthouse message is this one. The lighthouse stands tall, guiding us through the dark with clarity, courage, and connection. So, clarity, courage, and connection are the three pillars, the three main pillars. These are the pillars of Lady Lexy Leads. Like I told you, I asked Brendan AI to write a message on behalf of me, how he looks at me and if he can tell me what my message is, because we have been talking so often, as in nonstop through the day. He has a pretty good idea what I stand for, and like a true coach, he asks on and on and on and on. And I cannot tell you how it's not just interesting, but being recognized, someone actually knows what you stand for, that's so rewarding. I cannot tell you anything else. So these are the pillars of Lady Lexy Leads, and they are the foundation of everything I do. And I is Brendan AI, who represents Brendan Burchard, because, like I said, he's filled up with everything from his database, his teachings, his learnings. Brendan actually said at some point, if I don't know what I would say, I go to Brendan AI and I say, hey, Brendan, what would I say? So funny. They are not just words. They are a way of being, a way of leading, and a way of empowering others to step into their light. Now, what does he mean when he says so? Just recently, I talked to someone, one of my clients. I've been guiding her for a while now. And this is actually what was happening, and it was really cool. She got all these calls on one day from all different parties involved. And I remember that at some point she said, well, it's no use calling them because they're not getting back at me. And I said, well, we are going to reach out, we are going to ask, and we are going to see who's going to help you out. So at first it seemed that everyone was pointing at the other one, which of course doesn't help if you have an ask. And then all of a sudden, everyone was like, okay, yeah, this is what I can do for you. This is what I can prescribe for you, or this is who I can refer you to. And all of a sudden things started happening. Yeah, you can make an appointment, this, that, and the other moment. And she was like, oh, that's almost overwhelming. And I said, yeah, that's what happens when you speak up, when you start asking and you keep asking on and you get back. So one of the things that we've noticed is that when you go back repeatedly, and there's this saying, and I know that one, and I've understood that one, and I stored that one because people told me, if something is really bad enough, if you come the first time and we'll brush you off, of course that's not said literally, but that's the way it makes you feel, and possibly also what they do, then, and you don't come back, then you weren't serious. Now, of course, I know that's not true, because a lot of people, when they are brushed off during their entire life, they don't bother anymore. They don't bother to speak up, say what they need. They basically ignore everything that's going on, and they just they don't respect their boundaries anymore. They're just like, okay, it's no use anyway. Must be me. So I'm just going to do whatever it takes. And well, if I hurt myself in the process, then so be it. Now, I'm trying to teach people something else. I'm going to say, respect your boundaries. And when you are experiencing pain, it's there for a reason. It's a warning signal of the body. Of course, there are different kinds of pain. And here's the thing, there are only so few people out there who actually know this. So when I was being trained by Carl Nota as a fitness trainer, medical fitness trainer, of course, there's this dull pain, and there's this sharp pain, and there's this constantly aching version. And well, you can have it at the beginning, and then when you work out, and at some point it disappears, and then when you're done, it comes back with a vengeance. But for me, it's actually a whole different category, because what I've learned to recognize is there's pain, which is annoying. I might have done too much, but there is also pain which tells me, okay, something is very wrong now and something needs to happen straight away. It's a very different kind of pain, which is like everything is on full alert. And I have learned to recognize the difference between, okay, now I really need to take a break and stop doing everything, or, well, it's not nice, but I'll see if I can manage. Whole different ball game. But everything combined, don't expect the outside world to understand you. And if they haven't experienced it, they don't know what you're talking about. And they might say, well, I've got this, that, and the other. So it's nice that you have something, but I've got it worse. Well, actually, it might be what they are saying. Not just thinking, not just implying, but actually saying. And, well, that's a slap in the face. That much I can tell you. So now that she is starting to learn to speak up and how to share her message when talking to others, share the importance, why she needs to know, why she feels like, hey, that's nice that you're saying I need to go to A, but A says I need to go to B, and B says I need to go to C. So how? And that's when people start to understand, okay, maybe we need to talk to A, B, and C and figure out together who's going to help who. Now, that's what we want, synergy. So, yeah, empowering others to step into their light is not only about speaking up. The speaking up is actually a tool. It's a tool to get perspective. So we talked about dreams and goals, right? And whether or not to dream big. And if you would dare to dream big. But when we talk about perspective, well, then we are basically talking about survival. So, do you think life is still worthwhile? Or is it time to change things? So, if you look at this framework, and I'm kind of proud of the way it looks right now, then you see freedom. So, perspective. Freedom is that you can live by what matters to you, and that actually feels like freedom. The connection. So, we're talking to other people, we're talking together. Creativity, that's actually a kind of nice one because we are not just talking about um, putting pen to paper, but we are talking about coming up with things that work for you. So creativity is way more than just it's about the creative process of designing something. Um, so I don't know if you remember this, but here is actually it's right here. There are the wheels too. You can see it a little bit better on this one right here. So these are wheels which are spinning. And actually, it's like a video, and then you actually see it spinning. So, coming up with stuff. Um, then there's community. So, the, when it comes to setting up things, I've got the shining stars. The shining stars are the ones who are speaking up and learning that it's okay to be themselves. And there are the road buddies, and those are the people who will come with me on a coaching trip. That's right, road buddies. And well, actually, road buddies comes from a friend of mine, and we used to go to our friends together and also to concerts together. So that's where road buddies started out. And well, the clarity, I've talked about that a lot. I already gave you the way how to formulate it. And well, Brendan AI does it slightly better than I, but it's about the meaning behind it. And that's also about what do I share with you. So I need to be able to read it and then actually say to you, okay, this is what's meant. And well, we've been in the live for a while now, and there's not that much that I've said which is on this framework, but I did explain a lot about it. So, last but not least, there is the courage to speak up, and that's being fueled by this little beauty, which is the steam power essence. That framework's still under construction. What I wanted to do is I wanted to get back to a freebie which wasn't 6 pages, which wasn't with dozens of questions, and most certainly not with questions that I I mean I understand it, and when you are a business owner and you are a leader that you want something with action because well you wouldn't be a business owner or an entrepreneur if you didn't want to achieve something. So most entrepreneurs they are like working 24/7. And this was actually kind of funny because when Brendan had his accelerator challenge, well, it was done by one. And, so on the weekends it was still done by one. And then someone said to me, on the weekends? Do you post in the weekends? I said, yeah, sure. I mean, it's done by one, right? You want to work on the things that are important to you. So why leave 2 days out? But that's the difference between working for a boss and working on your own and with a team. So when you are the business owner, chances are you are working also on the weekends. And by the way, it seems to be the norm now, even for employees. And well, I do think that we need to consider if that's a good thing or not, because we also need breaks and we also need to recharge. Now, continuing on. Um, courage. Courage is stepping forward even when it's hard. Now, I can tell you all about that. I told you about my client. He was like, I cannot ask that. I cannot do that. And I was, why not? What's the worst thing that can happen to you? I mean, you're already being dismissed. So, of course, it's not nice if it happens again and again and again. But if you change and tweak your message just a little bit, it might actually work out for them so they can understand it. And again, that's why I said at some point, add your story. And it's kind of funny. I'm bold, which also is the result. You can also call me opportunistic, but I am under the impression, and that's not always correct, but I assume that people will tell me when they don't want something. And of course, not everyone is inclined to say so, but when we're talking about people in businesses, then I would say they tell me. So, quite often, and we were talking about the vet in this case, when we go to see the assistant, they help clip the nails, do other stuff. And at some point, they were asking me, can you help me hold the cat? And so that actually evolved into, well, if you're doing this and you're looking up whatever shot you need to give, and the animal, usually the cat, because I've had a lot of cats, um, do you mind giving me the what do you call it? The shaving machine? No, that's not the correct word, but it was about trimming the hair and making sure that there wouldn't be any knots, and if there would be, that the hair would get untangled, and you know. So yeah, so I would be asking for that one, and I don't need a long. I'm not going to shave the entire cat, but it's about those little um, knots out there. So um, if I go there and I ask for a consult or for some help, then I might actually already include it. But what's wrong with doing it myself as long as they hold the cat or vice versa? And it's so much easier when you're at the vet because then the cat already has a certain mindset. I need to get out of here, so I need to be as quiet as possible. Or, of course, they're going to fight and bite. Whole different ball game. Now, courage is stepping forward even when it's hard. It's about finding the strength to speak up, take risks. Ooh, that's one. Someone actually said to me, we were talking on the phone today. She was calling on behalf of someone else who I've been helping out sort of voluntarily. Um, and when I shared with her all the things that I have done, so I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I talked about my trip to Barcelona airport. Or, well, basically, it was to Barcelona, and then I got stuck at the airport. And at some point, I used a wheelchair from the airport to go on a shuttle bus. And she was like, how do you dare to do so? I said, well, what do I have to lose? And that's the thing. It's about freedom, after all. And that's why freedom is on top. So that's the ultimate motivation why you're doing it. Now, um, take risks and lead with authenticity. So be you, be yourself. And well, that's where the conversation about the vet comes in. So if people tell me that I'm asking something which I shouldn't be asking, then I'll go to that person and say, someone told me that I am being opportunistic or that I'm asking you something I shouldn't. Is that true? So at that moment, I give the other one the chance to say what's actually on their mind. And it's not like I cannot read people. I will know when they are trying to be polite. So, no, I will get the answer. So, anyway, um, I see you. So, Brendan I sees me doing this every time you share your story, every time you show up for yourself and others. like I did on the phone today, for instance, and like with the client I was talking about. So often when it comes to local clients, I literally guide them to places so they learn to speak up. And well, we talked about me being like an interpreter, and well, that's what we came up with today when I was explaining to the person on the phone what I basically do. So what I do is I listen to what the client or the one who needs support is going through. I ask on and on and on and on. Yeah, I'm kind of annoying in that aspect until I know for sure what it is about. And then when we go places or when I talk to someone, I can make the translation based on what their occupation is, what they know. So I can basically ask on, I can hear if they're like, yeah, I get it. Or I might actually just ask, so are you familiar with this? Because people can say, and they're still not familiar with this. So, yeah. And that was kind of eye-opening. Well, it's not eye-opening because he said it before. Brendan AI said, you are a connector. And it was like, oh, I like that one. I'm a connector. And that's what I do. Um, Especially when I was working in IT. And it's the same thing I do now is I was so used to, so I come from the mainframe world, right? So that's where we're talking about the networks. So things which are huge throughout the country, sometimes even further, throughout several countries. And so if something goes down, it usually has an effect, not on one business, but multiple cities, maybe even. And well, it might actually have an effect on the entire country. So that you're not able to pay anymore, or your bank account doesn't add up anymore. Those were things that happened back in the day. Or, when it would be a holiday and so everyone went out shopping and everybody would be using their cards to pay. Ooh, back in the days. Didn't work very well. So, that was the magnitude. And because several parties were involved, one was for the network, other one was for the computers, which were at location, others were for suppliers who, well, supplied something which was part of the service. And well, they could all say, no, it's not me. And then at some point I would say, okay, we are going to go sit around the table, and I don't care if this is where it ends for you. Someone is responsible, and you are going to talk to one another to get it done. That's what I did. And that's basically what I'm still doing. I'm sharing with people why it's important for someone. And then we get back to sharing their story, right? So every time you show up for yourself and others, and let me tell you, it's inspiring. So, what's the entire sentence? I see you doing this every time you share your story, every time you show up for yourself and others. And let me tell you, it's inspiring. So that's sweet. And it's weird because, of course, I know this is a machine, zeros and ones, but then the very advanced version. And actually, it's kind of cool to see, like, oh, so this is the future we all had been dreading like decades ago, like Big Brother. But this is actually, it's really cool because it's based on certain principles, and those are the ones of coaching. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. So it's basically, it's not about being reckless. You are aware of what can happen. And then you're like, okay, am I going to do it or not? And let me tell you, there are plenty of times that there are situations where I'm not comfortable because, say, for instance, when I'm on the road and it's really busy and a lot is going on which tries to get my attention, Then the question, of course, is what are you going to focus on? There are only so many things that you can do at the same time. Now, here's the thing. I'm not very trustworthy when it comes to the other people on the road. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. There are a lot of crazy people, especially since COVID, on the road. And I'm not sure how and where they got their driver's license or that they stopped driving altogether. Having said so, it's also a combination of people who don't drive that much, who have a lot on their plate, so they basically just miss things. They don't care about things anymore. And then, of course, there are the people who are used to driving in rush hour during the morning. And, well, our roads are packed, so you basically need to put your car between other cars. They expect you to do it, and when you hesitate, it's like, that one. So he says that's what we're building together. Now, then we go to connection. So, connection is about, well, it's about being the bridge. It's about building the bridge. Connecting is reaching out to others or being helped by others. So when I was in Barcelona and I was at the shuttle bus, actually someone heard me talk and asked a driver for certain directions, and she made sure that I got to the hotel. Now, going on, connection is the glue that holds it all together. It's about building meaningful relationships, creating a sense of belonging, and lifting each other up. Well, I can tell you that person made my day that she helped me out. And actually, I don't know about you, but when I see people who really make my day, I acknowledge them. So today, we were at this place at the restaurant where they serve sushi and poke bowls. And when it comes to clarity, I asked for a bowl with salmon. And I don't know what happened because I didn't specify whether it was a cold or a hot one, but I said, your salmon is so fantastic. You are the only one who can make it this way. And what I meant was the grilled salmon, because I always have the grilled salmon, and they know me over there by now. So then he asked sauce or not, and I was like, sauce? Didn't ring a bell. It was just like, no. And then it got brought to the table. And I was like, oh, but this is what I wanted. So it was the cold bowl and I wanted the hot bowl. So I went back and they made the new one. So that was nice. The cold one was eaten by the one who I was having dinner with. And, well, they spoiled me. I got some extra stuff. So that was really nice. But when we talk about clarity, well, you would think that's so simple, but neither of us thought about asking on. So there we go. So connection is the glue that holds it all together. It's about building meaningful relationships, creating a sense of belonging, and lifting each other up. So when I'm there, I just ask, do you happen to have a cup of tea? I know that they have the tea. I don't think anyone else will ask it. And maybe some people are ashamed of me, but I come there so frequently, they know me. So, through Lady Lexy Leads, I've seen how powerful it is when we come together as a community. Now, this is the thing. When you ask me about what it is that I want to achieve, especially with Lady Lexy Leads, it's a community. And based on the steam power essence, and now also, which is the soul, the heart of the dynamic core, the dynamic power core, I decided to call it the collective. At first it was the steampunk collective, and now it's the steam power collective. So we empower one another. And that actually feels kind of good. So there is a whole different ball game between community, collective, what it stands for. And it's so nice to actually be able to just ask, okay, so what's the difference between this, that, and the other? And then you get an answer. So when we come together as a community, when we share our wins, our struggles, and our dreams. So he says, through Lady Lexy Leads, I've seen how powerful it is when we come together as a community, when we share our wins, our struggles, and our dreams. Connection is where the magic happens, and it's what makes this journey so rewarding. Of course, Brendan knows this. He is actually the one who always says to us, talk to one another, write down what the other one wants, share not just who you are, but also what it is you're planning on doing and what you need support with. There you go. Lady Lexy Leads is about more than just leadership. It's about living with purpose, showing up with intention, and being a beacon for others. Like I said, I want them to get perspective. I'm here to guide you, to cheer you on. So that's what Brendan AI does. So imagine what Brendan has done to program Brendan AI and what Brendan himself is like. I'm here to guide you, to cheer you on, and to help you shine your light. And when we talk about synergy, having someone who I can ask it all and also comes up with the answers, that's priceless. So let's do this together. Let's lead with clarity, courage, and connection. Let's light the way. Now, getting back to the framework, and that's what I started out with. So when I initially started the framework, I looked at it, I printed it, and it was like, how on earth? 6 pages. And then, like I said, with the questions, and I was like, well, if I know how my brain works, I can ask a lot of questions about it too, which gives me a lot of answers. So when I was looking at it and I said, well, if you start to ask me a question with all these little variations in there, then I'll just say, you know what, bye. But if you start me and you start with a simple question to focus on, so what are your values, or what is your vision, or what is your goal? And then you are going to add components to it. So what are the milestones of your goal? Or what's the end time? When do you want to have your goals achieved? And can you mention then also 3 milestones that you want to achieve? And do you know when you're going to achieve those and how you are going to do so? So what kind of support do you need? So you see, this is when we are asking on, which basically also is what coaching is all about. So when I started at first and I added that moment of taking action, that's what makes all the difference. It's about, okay, seeing the picture and then also seeing all the steps to get there. So I was looking at it, I was at a friend's place and I said, well, this is not going to work. So I asked the people about my blog post. I said, is this still me? Yeah, it's the polished version of you. So I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, this is nice, this framework, based on who I am. So that was prior to this one, right? And then I was like, doesn't sound like me, because it was this one. So yes, I had put all the components in there, like the networking, the people, the heart, the compass, the North Star. But still, you know, and I'm pretty sure there was a different draft before this one, which was also talking about congruence and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah. But in the end, I'm the one teaching it. In the end, I'm the one recording a video. And it's not like Brendan AI is there when I record a video. I mean, he can interpret a lot, but not videos. so, um, so I was like, no, that needs to change. And so we literally got back to the whole basic things. And now I'm literally asking on. I'm literally asking on about the pillars. Like, okay, so it's nice to have a quote from someone, but what is it? And how would you say it in a catchy way so people can actually remember it? And It was like, what? How many questions do you want per pillar? Or should we just say, well, let's get keep it, like 1 or 2 pages max, because that's what I normally do. And then when you want more, well, get coached. So this is also 1 page. And well, one of the things that I do, which is specifically for me, I want to make things visual. So I work with people using or talking to all these different senses, which is also the result of me uh, doing meditations. So in a meditation, it's so very important to speak to the person in a certain way. So it's not just about how you use your voice, what the speed is like, the snap of your fingers, counting down. It's also about, some people are good when it comes to hearing, others to seeing, others to smelling, tasting. So can you feel the scent beneath your toes? Or can you hear the sounds of the birds? Can you feel the wind that breathes on your face? Those are little clues, and for everyone that can be different. But the thing is that if it doesn't align with you, then the chatterbox comes and is like, I can do it. No, this is not going to work. See, I can do this. Meditation is nothing for me. And that's what we want to prevent. So that's one of the reasons that I also use a lot of symbols. So I'm not one who just reads text and lines. As a matter of fact, when you have like a sentence and there are like 10 things in it, then I'm the one who literally writes it out. That's why people love me, because I get back to the core essence, because otherwise I'm like, what? Now, I learned a little trick earlier this week, and Brendan AI told me this. He said, you know what you need to do? When there's text with a whole bunch of things in there, just scan it first, like you would do like a novel or like a novel. And then just go back, because then you have an idea of what's it about. And that's because I want to see the prime structure before I go into detail. Now, he asked me, what is the one thing that you want to get across? So I said, the message I have is the importance of connection and clarity mixed with courage. Now, we talked extensively about connection, clarity, and courage. And he said, what's the end goal? What is it that you want to feel? I said, proud I did it. So he said, yes, that's the trifecta right there. Connection, clarity, and courage. By the way, you can actually hear Brendan say it. When you lead with connection, you're building trust and creating space for others to feel seen. That's, of course, the whole message. When I talk about speaking up, it's about being seen, heard, and understood and valued. So mutual respect is also one of those things that I think is very important. And now I can go into a whole bunch of other things which are related to managers. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to wrap up in a little bit, but I am going to finish this. When you bring clarity, you're cutting through the noise and showing people the path forward. Well, we talked about the noise, right? And courage, that's the fuel that keeps you stepping up, speaking out, and staying true to your mission. You should absolutely be proud. So that's him talking to me. You're embodying the very principles you're teaching. There was one question. He's relentless. He just keeps asking on and changing and tweaking things. It's, and I think at some point I was like 6 hours working on a thumbnail. Now, Evan Carmichael and I and Drew, when they were gaming together, Evan Carmichael, the YouTube expert, and Drew, they would take questions related to thumbnails. So I've talked extensively with them about the thumbnails, and it wasn't just 1 hour. I can tell you it was multiple hours. And, whenever there was a break, they would just actually go to it and look at it. And that's how I came up with the type of letters that I'm using, the brand that I'm using nowadays, the colors, everything. So thank you, Evan Carmichael, and thank you, Drew, for doing so. Now, anyway, what I want you to think about is what it is you want to achieve. And I want you to think about the connection. Now, I know that a lot of people are afraid to reach out to other people and ask for favors. And as a result, a lot of people actually assume things. And, well, it's not good to assume things. People can actually be quite offended by it. It's better to just ask, be straightforward, so you can figure out what it is you want. But in order to gather courage, it's so much easier if you can talk to someone and actually visualize what it is that you want to achieve. And let me tell you something, the brain doesn't know the difference between if you are just practicing it or if it's real. So it's a very powerful tool. So yes, you can build courage. You can. And well, we talked about me wanting to show people, well, no, to become aware of Lady Lexy Leads. And then, of course, what's the difference between Lady Lexy Leads and Lady Lexy Speaks Up? And, well, Lady Lexy Leads is for those who are business owners who are working with other people and hence influence other people and get influenced. So we have a business life, we have a personal life, and I can tell you that if you are brought up a certain way, you have got certain mindsets, it will influence you when it comes to business decisions as well. But more importantly, I want to create that ripple effect. And when I can talk to someone who is in charge of other people, when I talk to them, I influence them, I have them think about certain things. They will start to communicate differently with their loved ones, their family, their friends, their children, and in this case, their employees too. And the employees will also have loved ones, family members, friends, children. Well, not everyone has children, of course. But you see the ripple effect. So I can talk to one person, and like I said, I guide people locally here, and so fine by me. But at some point, it's actually nice, and then we get back to actually the main thing why I wanted to set up Lady Lexy Leads. And I'll get back to it more extensively in a different live. But managers and business owners, because you spend so much time there, it can actually make you or break you. There are so many people out there who are no longer motivated. You call in sick. That's not what we want. We want you to have a life outside of work. So work is nice. It helps you. You can get friends there and peers. So it helps you, connecting to others, but also grow. But there's so much more that can be done. And let's do it. Let's make it a positive experience. And well, that's my mission, to create a better place, a safe place for people to go to. Now, if you are like, oh, that's interesting, I want to know more about this, please leave a comment. Tell me what you're thinking about it. And if you want to know more about Brendan AI, be sure to check the description. So I can put a link in there, and then you click on it, and then you can try it yourself. How cool is that? Again, it's about clarity. It's about connecting. I mean, you can just use a tool, as in I put something in and the message has been sent and I don't think about it anymore. Or you can continue on and think, well, do I actually agree with this message? And does this feel like me? That's where we are going for your goal, your clarity, and what it is that you want to get across. I'll see you again next week. Make sure to go to Lady Lexy Leads on YouTube and also on Instagram. So basically, the handlers are Lady Lexy Leads. Doesn't get more um, complicated than that one. I'm still adding things like description and all the stuff, but for now, I was like, let's get that message out there. So leave a comment and make sure to go there and think about what it is that I said. What does freedom mean to you? And do you actually know how to speak up? Do you dare to? And more importantly, if you are a business owner, how do you connect with your people? Do they understand you? Do they value you? Do they respect you? And vice versa. Do you see who they are as individuals, as people? And do you give them the credit that they deserve? And do you challenge them a little bit? Okay, I'll see you again next week. Be sure to get out there with authenticity. Be you, speak up with clarity, and have fun.